So even with the additional fight scenes in the recent Naruto and Sasuke versus Jigen fight in the Boruto anime, I just get this gnawing feeling that persons are still unsatisfied with how the fight went down. But what if Naruto and Sasuke actually did defeat Jigen in episode 204 of the anime? How would this affect the story? Well, go on everyone, Sanjay Uchiha here and welcome back to the channel. It's your friendly neighborhood Uchiha, don't know. But yo, I hope you guys are having an awesome day, or if you're just, you're just mellow and chill in general. It is Wednesday, so middle of the week, eh? But anyway, yes, what if Naruto and Sasuke did defeat Jigen? Of course, this isn't my first rodeo doing a what if video, or a what if discussion as I like to call them. My videos on what if Madara lived into the Boruto era seem to have done pretty well, I guess, parts 1 and 2, so this idea just came to me and here we are. But of course, fair warning, this video will contain spoilers for the Boruto manga, so anime onlys, beware. But if you don't have a problem and you're just an anime only or partial anime only who doesn't care about spoilers, this video is for you. So let's get into it. So Naruto and Sasuke were pretty much easily defeated once Jigen entered his level 2 karma state, as was showcased in episode 204 in the Boruto anime. But by the end of the fight, after sealing Naruto and going back to the Kara base, we saw that his body was breaking down drastically, and he hardly even had 10% of his chakra left. And honestly, the key to defeating Jigen actually hinges on this time and drawing out the fight. But what conditions would be necessary for Naruto and Sasuke to get Jigen to that point by drawing out the fight and actually being able to defeat this weakened Jigen? Now, similar to my Madara what if, I'm going to be introducing conditions that was going to facilitate what if, naturally. So in this case, I'm introducing Sasuke with more chakra, and that's not like a shot. That's not like a attack on Sasuke, but the fact of the matter, as admitted by Sasuke in the episode, he needs to reserve a decent amount of chakra to actually use his space-time ninjutsu, so he can't go too wild or too varied in the abilities that he uses in the fight. He has to actually reserve his chakra. And of course, Naruto, I am going to throw in the ability to use ball release for his hand-to-hand situations with Jigen in this fight. And just thirdly, just an extra layer of creativity in using these abilities, because in the grand scheme of things, they don't have to straight up beat Jigen. The aim is to simply drag out the fight for an additional 2 to 5 minutes. But I know it's kind of stretching it a bit given how overwhelmingly powerful level 2 Jigen is, but an additional 2 to 3 minutes I think would actually be all that's needed to get Jigen to that point where he's at about 10% chakra and everything. And with ball release and extra Sasuke with more chakra, who would be able to actually use much more of his abilities, I think that's just what's needed to stall out the fight just a bit more for Jigen, or Isshiki, who's controlling Jigen's body, to actually start weakening. Because as we saw by the end there, before he even left the battlefield, his body started cracking. So there's that. But now the interesting part comes along. If they do get Jigen to that point and actually manage to, the last bit of chakra, last bit of thing they could do was actually defeat or kill him, these things kind of go downhill from there. Manga readers can pretty much deduce how the story goes from here, because similar to the manga, Isshiki Otsutsuki would decide to reincarnate via Jigen's body and put himself in a situation where he has 2 to 3 days left to live, because Jigen's body simply isn't the ideal vessel for his overwhelming power. Now, with Isshiki now out and Naruto and Sasuke basically dry, or even if I put a situation they had some chakra sensus chakra sensu beans and could go back to 100%, they actually lose even more. They get embarrassed more to a much greater extent than they did in episode 204 with Isshiki back on the field. But as I said, the story does go 2 ways from here. Route 1, Isshiki actually kills Naruto and Sasuke, and in his frustration, he would more than likely go back to Konoha and remark and recapture Kawaki, as well as Boruto. And it's at this point, after coming back to the Kara base, he would actually talk with the rest of the Kara members potentially before transferring over back to the dimension with the Ten Tails and actually killing Boruto by feeding him to the Ten Tails so that a new god tree could actually, start growing. And of course, at that point, it's kind of up in the air in terms of how or who would be able to actually stop them at that point. But that probably might be a what if for another day. But the story kind of goes completely downhill without Naruto, Sasuke, and Boruto, the main character at that. And there's not much characters left who can actually make a dent in Kara, so it is what it is at that point. Now, of course, the alternative is that Kurama actually introduces the concept of Baryon mode to Naruto much earlier than what was showcased in the manga timeline, which would actually be interesting, having Baryon mode Naruto versus Isshiki Otsutsuki much earlier on. That would be very interesting if I do say so myself. Now, of course, the fight would be an interesting one, but quick nonetheless, as Isshiki's time frame in terms of living would actually be reduced drastically to less than 10 minutes by the end of the fight, more than likely, if it does go along the same lines in terms of fight choreography like we had in the manga. But at the same time, if I'm being honest, we would have the same situation playing out with Isshiki potentially calling or transferring Kawaki to the dimension via the chakra connection in Naruto's arm, and we would probably have Kawaki pulling off the CM Shadow Clone trick and eventually killing Isshiki Otsutsuki more than likely. But of course, this would come at the cost of Kurama's life, as was seen in chapter 55 of the Boruto manga. And of course, the good part about this route is that Sasuke gets to keep his Rinnegan for now. And we still have to worry about Borushiki and Momoshiki and everything. But of course, this kind of changes the dynamic of how, Amado and Kashin Koji actually go forward. Probably it's a case in this timeline we have Kashin Koji meeting Naruto. Well, he hasn't met him in the manga just yet, but he probably would end up meeting him much sooner, as probably Amado and Kashin Koji probably defect from Kara more than I still would, and probably just shut down Delta at this point. And Amado would still want to get away from Code, because as we more than likely can deduce, Amado's objectives, even though unclear at this moment, do not align 100% with Kara, so they still more than likely leave the organization, and we would have an emotional reunion, emotional set of scenes as Naruto loses Kurama and meets the clone of his late master Jiraiya. So that's pretty much the setup we have, or the end that we have for this little what if discussion. Yeah. Interesting, I know. So the story could go one or two ways. Either Naruto and Sasuke and Boruto die, or Kurama dies and Sasuke keeps his Rinnegan, and Amado and Kashin Koji meet Naruto much earlier than what was showcased in the timeline. So yeah, that's all I have for this one. I think this was alright. I believe so. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think and how do you feel the story would go down. I'm interested in seeing, what you guys really think. Of course, let me know your thoughts, leave a like, and of course, journey to random subscriber count. So, Sanju Uchiha, guys, respect for tuning in if you made it this far, and I'll see you in the next Boruto What If?